Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to dive into some of the most bizarre, most unbelievable wonders our planet has to offer. I'm talking about phenomena that seem like they're pulled straight out of a sci-fi movie, things that really make you stop and question how the world works.
I mean, just think about that for a second. A forever storm? A river at the bottom of the ocean? That sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, right? Well, as we're about to find out, our planet is absolutely full of these kinds of strange and beautiful secrets.
So here's the plan for today. We're going to check out a lightning storm that basically never stops, then we'll find a river flowing deep beneath the waves, and we'll even solve the mystery of rocks that literally move all by themselves. Let's jump right in. Okay, our first stop takes us to Venezuela, right at the mouth of the Catatumbo River. This place is home to something known as the Everlasting Storm, and believe me, it has earned that name. We're talking about a storm that happens up to 160 nights a year for about 10 hours a day.
So 280. What's that all about? Well, that is how many times lightning strikes this one spot every single hour. It is just a relentless, incredible display, making this place the world's biggest single generator of tropospheric ozone.
So what on earth is causing this? For decades, it was a complete mystery. You know, early on, scientists thought it had to do with wind patterns, or maybe where warm and cold air met. But the leading theory today actually points underground. It seems that methane gas, rising up from the swamplands and massive oil deposits below, is the perfect fuel for this never-ending electrical storm.
All right, next up we're going from a wild storm in the sky to the exact opposite, the dark, quiet bottom of the Black Sea. This is where scientists discovered something that just sounds completely impossible. A huge river flowing right along the seabed.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about some lazy ocean current here. No, this is a real river. The water flowing in this channel is so much saltier, and because of that, so much denser than the seawater around it, that it carves its own path. Get this, it has its own riverbanks, its own floodplains, and even waterfalls and rapids. Seriously, waterfalls under the sea?
And to give you an idea of the sheer power we're dealing with, just look at this comparison. This undersea river is moving 22,000 cubic meters of water every second. That is 10 times the amount of water carried by the famous Rhine River in Europe. That's just staggering.
Let me put that another way for you. If this river was up here on the surface with us, it would be the 6th largest river on the entire planet. An absolute giant, just flowing in total darkness at the bottom of the sea.
From that hidden giant, we're going to move to something way more delicate, but maybe even more bizarre. And its nickname alone is enough to send a chill down your spine. People call it the icy finger of death.
So what exactly is a brinicle? Well, the easiest way to think of it is as an underwater icicle. It's this hollow tube of ice that starts forming under the sea ice up on the surface and grows all the way down, sometimes touching the ocean floor.
Now, the reason you don't see these everywhere is that they are incredibly rare. You need this perfect storm of conditions. The sea ice can't be moving, you need a steady flow of super salty, freezing cold brine, and the water has to be fairly shallow and not too salty itself. If any one of those things is off, the whole thing just breaks apart. And here's where it earns that terrifying name. As that super cold brine pools on the seabed, it literally freezes solid any slow-moving creature that gets in its way. We're talking starfish, sea urchins, encasing them in a tomb of ice right there on the ocean floor.
Okay, let's head back to dry land for a geological mystery that stumped scientists for more than a century, the sailing stones of Death Valley.
For years, this was the central puzzle. Visitors would find these heavy rocks, some of them weighing hundreds of pounds, and they'd see these long tracks carved into the mud behind them. The stones had clearly moved, but no one ever saw them do it. There were no footprints, no signs of anything pushing them.
So, the mystery was finally cracked back in 2014, and it turns out it's all about this perfect, incredible sequence of events. First, you need a rare rainstorm to leave just a thin layer of water. Then, that water freezes overnight into a huge, thin sheet of ice. As the sun comes up and starts to melt it, that ice breaks into these big floating panels. And finally, even a gentle wind is enough to push these giant ice sheets, and they act like sails, pushing the rocks across the slippery mud below.
For our final phenomenon, we're looking up at one of nature's most absolutely beautiful and celebrated displays, the auroras, which you probably know as the northern and southern lights.
So what's the science behind this incredible light show? Well, it all starts with the sun. It's constantly blasting out this stream of charged particles, which we call the solar wind. When those particles get to us, Earth's magnetic field acts like a giant funnel, guiding them down toward the north and south poles. When they hit the atoms in our atmosphere, they light up, and that collision is what we see as those brilliant glowing lights.
You know, auroras actually come in two main flavors. You've got the famous curtain arc. Those are the dramatic dancing ribbons of light that you always see in the amazing photos. But there's also something called the diffuse glow, which is this much subtler glow across the whole sky that can be so faint it's actually hard to see with the naked eye.
So, from everlasting storms to sailing stones and undersea rivers to icy fingers of death, we've seen some truly unbelievable things today. What's the common thread that ties all of these together?
Well, I think the big idea here is that for every seemingly magical or impossible thing we see in nature, there is a scientific explanation just waiting to be discovered. All of these phenomena are just amazing examples of the complex, interconnected systems from geology to physics that make our planet so incredible.
And that really leaves you with a final thought. These are just 5 of the wonders that we've managed to figure out. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible secrets is our planet still hiding, just waiting for us to find them? Thanks for joining me.